I want to thank you again for coming to another Let's Be Healthy video program. And I want to thank you so much for being with us today so we can teach you how to be healthy, and your family to be healthy, your loved ones to be healthy, and everybody who cares about their own health. Stay tuned because we are going to be covering things today about cancer. We're going to talk about how you can avoid cancer, how you can prevent cancer, and natural things that you can do if you do have cancer to increase your immune system. So I want everyone to grab a sheet of paper and pencil because this is going to be a very, very, very important show today. And I want to go into detail on what certain things do and why you should avoid certain chemicals in your diet. Now, let me share with you real quickly. This is so important. One of the key things that you have to do when it comes to avoiding cancer is this. You have to avoid diet sodas. I don't know how to make any more intense this comment that I'm fixing to give you, but let me tell you a story. When you combine NutraSweet with or aspartame or equal, which is the diet soda stuff that's used in many of the sodas. And by the way, sucralose is just as bad. That's Splenda. It's just as bad. But when you take NutraSweet or aspartame, you combine it with nitrites. Like if you have a pepperoni pizza and a diet soda, you actually form a chemical that's called the diketopiperazine, and you call that a DKP in neurochemistry. That degrades to form a nitrose urea, and nitrose urea are the most effective agents known to man for reducing malignant brain tumors in laboratory animals. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I went to a well-known artist exhibition in a small town in Central Florida called Celebration. It's right close to Disney World, close to where I live. And when I was in Celebration, I went and talked to the manager of the art gallery, and his name was Scott. And Scott basically told me that he had beautiful paintings. If I wanted to buy any, he'd like to help me. Well, he was drinking a diet soda while he was talking to me. And I said to him, I said, Scott, I said, I'm probably not going to buy a painting, but I want to give you a little bit of advice. I said, if you want, you can go to my website. You can see that, you know, I've got credibility. I've got a very good education. I attended graduate school at Florida State University. And I'm telling you, the diet sodas have been linked to brain tumors, brain cancer, seizures, headaches, optic nerve degradation. 10% of the molecular structure of NutraSweet is methanol or paint thinner, also used as, you know, as antifreeze lotion and everything else in the automobiles, antifreeze and all kinds of other stuff they use it for, the methanol. And here's what's interesting about this. I said, you can form chemicals in your brain that cause brain cancer, and I don't want you to get brain cancer. And he started laughing. Now, he broke into hysterical laughter, thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. And he goes, if that were true, the government wouldn't allow it to be sold. And I said to him, I said, if that were true, why are cigarettes on the market? And he goes, oh. And I said, in addition to that, I said, don't believe everything you read as far as things being safe. I said, there were probably 10 scientists sat before Congress a couple of years ago and swore under oath that nicotine in cigarettes wasn't addictive. I mean, think about that, friends. If you're addicted to cigarettes right now, I just pray to God that you deliver from the cigarettes to this show today. But, you know, nicotine is as strong as heroin, according to C. Everett Koop, as far as its addictive qualities. But yet, top scientists, top graduates from top universities were saying and swearing under oath that nicotine was not addictive. So be careful what you believe the government tells you. Because remember, all kinds of things occurred for aspartame or NutraSweet to be approved by the federal government. So I told all this to Scott. He still thought it was funny. And I said, okay, great. Whatever you want to do. About a year later, I was traveling back through Celebration with a friend of mine, Lenny and Mary Lou Giammatteo, which are really dear friends. And I walked by the same gallery, and Scott was sitting there, and I waved at him. And about a minute later, somebody taps my shoulder and says, Dr. Brower, Scott would like to see you. And I said, sure, I'll be happy to talk to Scott. And I walked back to see Scott, and Scott was sitting there, and he goes, can you help me? And I said, Scott, what's wrong? You look terrible. He goes, I have brain cancer. Now, friends, listen to me. We laid hands on him. We prayed for him. Several months later, he died. He was told the truth. The truth, as far as I'm concerned, would have set him free. But he rejected the truth. The Bible says don't reject the knowledge that will be given. We've had people come to our seminars that we've done around the country. I've been blessed. In the last 10, 15 years, I've been able to speak to over 1 million people at live seminars. I've been featured on over 5,000 radio and television talk shows. I mean, we've been all over the world, you know, promoting the message of health and nutrition. But not everybody gets it. Now, I don't want you to be one of the people that don't get it. Scott didn't get it. Scott died. But listen to me. This is so important. You don't have to be a statistic. You don't have to die. You can get it. You can help your family to get it. And you don't have to go through all the pain associated with it. Another example, Mark from Danielle Fence, another good friend of mine in Central Florida, basically came to me several years ago, gave me a price on some fencing, and basically looked kind of rough. And I said, Mark, are you okay? He goes, well, I'll be honest with you. I've just gone through brain surgery. And I said, why did you have to go through brain surgery? He said, well, I was drinking a lot of diet sodas. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, were you having problems with seizures, or headaches or optic nerve degradation. He goes, matter of fact, he says, I was having massive seizures. And the doctor didn't know I was having seizures. And he said, what they did is they did an MRI on my brain, and they found I had holes in the frontal lobe of my brain. They had to go in and do brain surgery on me, and they had to tie off the blood vessels in the front of my brain so that I wouldn't have an aneurysm and die. Now, here's what's interesting. Dr. John Olding from Washington University at St. Louis Medical Center, he found that when you drink aspartame, it contains ingredients and compounds that cause you to actually have holes eaten in your brain. One of these ingredients is called aspartic acid. 45% of aspartame is aspartic acid, and it eats holes in the brains of the laboratory animals in which it's tested. So friends, I can give you testimonial about this. But listen to me. If you want to avoid cancer, stop drinking diet sodas. Stop drinking things that have diet soda additives, that have sucralose in them, that have aspartame in them. Don't put these chemicals into your body, because as far as I'm concerned, they're dangerous and you shouldn't put them into your system. Now, I wanted to share that with you in detail because aspartame is one of the top 10 foods on my list of foods never to eat. And we've been covering through this series. We try to pick one of these foods every single show to tell you to avoid. That's one of them. Now, since we're talking about different types of chemicals in the bodies, let's also talk about one other thing. This is number 6 on that top 10 list. And that's MSG, monosodium glutamate, also uses glutamic acid, which is another excitotoxin like aspartame is. And it actually eats holes in your brains, also as aspartame does, and it causes neural death and also increases the risks of cancer. A lot of times when you go to a Chinese restaurant, you get real bad headaches. That's because of the MSG, the monosodium glutamate that they're putting into the food supply there as a flavor enhancer, but that MSG increases the risks of all kinds of degenerative disease, including brain lesions and et cetera. So don't eat those two chemicals. They're very, very important if you want to avoid cancer. Now let's talk about cancer and diet. Cancer is on the increase. If this trend continues, it will actually overtake heart disease in the next few years as a leading cause of death in America. In 1990, there were over 1 million new cases of cancer reported. It's over this now in the year 2006. It's well over that. It's close to 1.5 million new cases of cancer being reported. Heart disease rates are actually going down. Cancer rates are actually going up. And soon, again, heart disease will be overtaken by cancer as the leading cause of death in the United States. Now, why is that? Well, it's very, very simple, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Cancer basically is caused by a lack of oxygen to the tissue. Now, cancer is what's called an anaerobic disease. Now, what this simply means is this. Cancer cannot live in the presence of high oxygen. So when you have decreased oxygen flow to the tissue, you have a much higher probability of getting cancer. In addition to that, cancer cannot live in an alkalinized or healthy body. It can only live in an acidified body, which means you're eating too many animal proteins, too many meats, too many products that contain high amounts of chemicals and additives. See, your body can't take huge amounts of carcinogens or agents that we know cause cancer, like sodium nitrite and different types of artificial sweeteners, on a regular basis and not be poisoned by them. Now, you may have a higher susceptibility to those and may be poisoned more quickly, or you may have higher immune reaction to that and be able to withstand it. But the reaction is the same with everybody. Everybody's poisoned by these different types of chemicals. We have over 7,000 chemical food additives, many of which cause cancer, which are added to our foods and our crops and pesticides every single year, and we don't realize how this stuff accumulates in our bodies until, in many cases, it's too late. Now, bad fats, bad chemicals. Let me look at diet and cancer incidence in adults. 40% of total cancer in males and 60% of total cancer in females is specifically linked to diet and nutrition. 40% and 60%. Now, folks, listen to me for a second. Those are statistics that we can live without. And again, what ends up happening is when we eat foods that have what's called a low nutrient density, which means they don't have enough vitamin A, enough omega-3 fat, enough vitamin C, enough vitamin E, and we eat these foods on a regular basis, and we don't have enough nutrients in these foods, our body ends up getting a condition that we call a deficiency disease. Now, cancer is one of those types of diseases. When our body becomes too acidic, when our body becomes too toxic, when our body doesn't have enough oxygen from atherosclerotic plaquing or whatever, because remember, with heart disease, the artery's thin. We've talked about this on an earlier show as far as the ability to pump blood and get oxygen to the tissue. And when that happens, you increase the risks of heart disease and you increase the risks of cancer. That's why heart disease and cancer and diabetes run hand in hand. If a person has a problem with heart disease or with diabetes, inversely, they're going to end up with the other condition. That's why so many people who have problems with heart disease end up being diabetic. So you have to understand all of this is controlled by the food that you're eating and the diet that you're choosing for you and your family. Now, friends, listen to me. If you're a mother and you're preparing the food for your family, if you've got kids at home, If you've got children that are unhealthy, if you've got a husband that's unhealthy, and you didn't know all the stuff that I'm telling you today, or if this just seems confusing, please stay tuned. We're going to give you more information in just a few minutes on how you can obtain additional resources on how to correct your diet and how you can feel absolutely wonderful every single day of your life without these types of horrible and debilitating diseases that are affecting everybody. Low fiber intake, additional factors. Higher pork consumption has been noted among cancer patients. Now, friends, listen to me. The Bible was very, very clear in Leviticus and in Deuteronomy. It said there were certain foods that we weren't supposed to eat. Now, I'm not going to tell you this has anything to do with salvation. It doesn't. You can eat all the pork products you want to eat as often as you want to eat them and get to heaven. You're just going to get there a lot quicker, and you're going to be a lot sicker, and you're going to feel absolutely horrible. The parts of the country that have the highest pork consumption have the highest incidences of cancer and heart disease. And there's a reason for that, because you're breaking one of God's dietary principles. It has nothing to do with salvation, again, as I just mentioned, but it has everything to do with health and feeling wonderful every single day of your life. And it also has a lot to do with obedience. God wants you to be obedient to His Word, both the Old Testament and the New Testament. Not for salvation, because we died, Jesus Christ came and He died for us, and we're saved by faith through grace, through our relationship with Christ. But listen to me, friends. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to be diseased. But one of the first key things you have to do to avoid heart disease and cancer is to be obedient to what the Word of God says. Cancer and diet. Diet and nutrition may affect the development of cancer and other factors that influence the number of naturally occurring or induced tumors. Atherosclerotic plaquing, again, we just mentioned, because of decreased oxygen flow caused by the bad fats, the omega-6 fats, can actually increase more deposits in the arteries. When you put these deposits in your arteries, you decrease blood flow. That's one of the primary causes, by the way, of senile dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And of course, Alzheimer's is also directly related as far as to aluminum intake in the diet and other types of heavy mineral contamination, but also because of blood flow to the brain directly affects senile dementia. In addition to that, in the nursing homes right now, we've talked about this on a later show, almost all of the nurses, see, there are 50 known drugs that cause senile dementia and memory loss, especially in aging patients. And these 50 drugs should never be given to folks in nursing homes. But guess what? They're routinely administered to the folks in the nursing homes. My mom is 91 years old now, and when she went into the nursing home about 5 years ago, she ended up having good mental acuity for her age, and within just a couple of years, they put her on 15 different prescription drugs. And I went in and I fussed and I fussed and I fussed and I fussed and I fussed, but because my sister has power of attorney over my mom, there was nothing I could do. And finally I said, this is crazy, and I watched her mind, I watched her mental acuity go from being good at 86 to being absolutely horrible now. And here's the sad part. It didn't have to happen, because remember, a diet of bad oils, excessive omega-6 like corn oil, safflower oils, hydrogenated oil products, processed dairy, and pork can increase plaque, build up your triglycerides in your blood, and by decreasing the oxygen and increasing the acidity of the system, you increase the risks of cancer. So friends, listen to me. So what have we covered today? We've got to increase fiber, very, very important, because that decreases the amount of fat that's absorbed in the system. We've got to lower the omega-6 fats in our diet. We have to add omega-3 fats in our diet. We have to add antioxidants like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and selenium in our diet. We call them the ACEs every single day. Now, I think the best source of omega-3 fat is cod liver oil. Now, very, very important that you listen to me for a second. You know, cod liver oil is critical, and I know it doesn't taste good. I take it every single day. My 3-year-old, my 5-year-old, my 7-year-old, my 18-year-old takes it. My 18-year-old works out with me on a regular basis, and he even tells me, Dad, when I don't take my cod liver oil every day, he goes, I hate to tell you this because I don't want to tell you that you were right. He goes, but when I don't take it, my joints start hurting. So many people can have tremendous results by taking old-fashioned, good old-fashioned cod liver oil, not the processed, the distilled stuff that you get in a lot of stores today, but you got to find a good source of the old-fashioned cod liver oil, because it's absolutely critical to provide essential omega-3 fats. It helps to thin the blood. When you thin the blood, you increase oxygen flow to the tissue. When you increase oxygen flow to the tissue, you decrease your risks of heart disease, you decrease your risks of stroke, and you decrease your risks of cancer. Now, friends, listen to me. It's important that you understand that I'm not here to judge you as far as your diet. I'm not here to tell you what you've been doing with your family is wrong. But what I am here for is to help you. I want you to know that I want God's best for you. I want you to feel good. I want you to look good. I want you to have tremendous energy and vitality. All of the folks here at Breakthrough want that for you. We want you to realize that we love you and we're here for you. And that realize immediately for yourself and for all of the folks that are listening today that you and your health are important to God. And that your most important health, one of your most important assets while you're here on earth is to be healthy so you can continue to promote the kingdom of God and tell people about Jesus Christ. Friends, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I want you to stay tuned because we'll be right back. In today's segment, we're going to be talking about obesity, heart disease, and weight loss, and what you can do from a nutritional standpoint to have a healthier heart, have a healthier cardiovascular system, how you can lower blood pressure and cholesterol and triglycerides without the use of drugs. We're going to talk about the side effects of drugs, what these drugs do to you, and do they really work. Now listen to me, friends, and it's very, very, very important that you do this. What I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself the question, am I better off with my medication that I'm taking, or are there natural alternatives? Or are the side effects of this medication I'm taking so bad and so debilitating that it's simply not worth the risk? Let me give you some information. This is very important. If you take, this is just a brand new study just released, if you take high blood pressure medicine for 30 years, okay, when you take high blood pressure medicine, when you take cholesterol medicine, you have all types of side effects like dizziness, cardiac arrhythmias, liver damage, and even death. When you take high blood pressure medicine, a lot of you feel absolutely horrible on high blood pressure medicine. And if you're taking high blood pressure medicine, I'm not telling you to stop taking it. You need to talk to your doctor first. But here are the statistics. If you take it for 30 years, do any of you have any idea how long you're going to live extra after 30 years of high blood pressure medicine? People think, I'll live another 10 years, another 15 years, another 20 years, 5 years. No, no, no. You live an additional 9 days. Yes, you got that right. 9 days when you take high blood pressure medicine. Now, the same thing is true with cholesterol medicine, the statin drugs. I mean, these drugs, as far as I'm concerned, should never have been approved because of the muscle wasting they cause, because of the kidney damage they can cause, because of the death they've already been linked to. A lot of them already been pulled back off the market. You live, if you take these statin drugs and these other types of drugs to lower cholesterol for 30 years, you may live up to as much as 6 months longer. 6 months. In spite of the fact you're subjecting your body to a toxic insult of all of these chemicals, poisoning your body with these chemicals. You may die of another disease that are caused by these different types of chemicals and drugs. And see, that's why the life expectancy when you take these drugs doesn't really increase, because you have additional death rates which occur from the use of these drugs. So now hopefully I've got your attention. So if you're taking statin drugs, if you're taking high blood pressure medicine, again, don't stop taking these drugs, but let's find natural alternatives to get the same results without using these drugs. Now, let's go ahead and start on this on the obesity problem that we have in this country. 40% to 40%, this is the percentage of males who are overweight in the United States. Over 60% of the males ages 40 to 49 are overweight. In the Netherlands, it's much less. Yugoslavia, Italy, Finland, Greece, Japan, it goes down. Now think about this for a second. There's a direct proportion of obesity problems in the United States, cancer rates, and heart disease rates. And we're going to go into detail about that. Now remember, diet is associated with 6 of the 10 leading causes of death in the United States today. Heart disease, which we're talking about today, which is directly linked to obesity, cancer, stroke, diabetes, cirrhosis, and atherosclerosis, which is, again, it's the plaquing of the arteries. And what we have to realize is that nutrition is also related to gallstones, to osteoporosis, to allergies, again, obesity, gum disease, learning disorders, and skin conditions. On an earlier show, we talked about the problems associated with children and attention deficit disorder and diet. In one study that was done, 80% of the children who were given a glucose tolerance test who'd been taking Ritalin or Adderall for attention deficit disorder were found to be hypoglycemic. 80%. 88% were reactive to red dyes and the blue dyes. In our office, we've had tremendous results in working with children who've been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD and helping to eliminate these types of conditions without the use of the drug Ritalin. Now you say, well, what's wrong with Ritalin? Well, let's talk about Ritalin for a second. Ritalin's a class 2 drug. It's in the same category with morphine, opium, Percodan, and Demerol. This is a strong drug. If little Johnny's being bad today in school and we want to correct Johnny's behavior, what are you going to give him, a shot of morphine? It's in the same category with morphine. This is strong, strong medicine for a condition that in most cases can be completely corrected or at least helped by dietary change. If a cocaine addict is given Ritalin, the cocaine addict can't tell whether he was given Ritalin or given cocaine. This is a class 2 controlled substance. This is strong, strong medicine. Not even to mention what it can do potentially to the damaging effects as far as the developing brain of a child. So remember, all of these drugs, the high blood pressure medicine, the cholesterol medicine, the ADD medicine, all of them have side effects. Always remember that. And that's why we need to understand that nutrition is related to all of these. Now remember, 1 out of 2 people die of heart disease each year. And now the statistics even stepping up with cancer. And believe it or not, cancer is now overtaking heart disease as the leading cause of death in kids. And well, it's already been the leading cause of death. It has already been the leading cause of death in children, but it is now overtaking heart disease as the leading cause of death in adults. Because cancer is a degenerative disease. We talked about this on an earlier show. Your body basically starts to break down and degenerate over a period of time for a lack of proper nutrients that are being given to it, and the body just deteriorates. Death rates from cardiovascular disease. We talked about this a little bit earlier ago. Japan, France, Switzerland. But I tell you what, friends, look at the United States. One of the highest death rates of cardiovascular disease in the entire world. And the reason for that is because pretty much the United States is leading the world when it comes to heart disease, to diabetes, and to cancer because of the junk that we constantly pour into our bodies, because of the drugs that we take in our country. Remember, in our country, it's legal to promote prescription drugs on the television at night when you're watching the evening news or any other time. In Europe, that is illegal. They can't do that. It's not even practiced in Europe because they realize that this drug should be produced and marketed to the doctor rather than to the population. Now remember, I'm not saying never stop taking drugs, but what I am saying is make sure if you do take drugs, take the right ones and only take them in moderation. According to Dr. Edith Weir of the USDA, she stated, if we all ate according to the recommended dietary allowance, the RDA levels, about 300,000 deaths a year from heart disease and stroke and $100,000 a year, 100,000 deaths a year from cancer could be prevented. Now, think about that for a second. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying in this country needlessly every single year because of their diet. Now, here's the other thing. So many of you write me on a regular basis and you say, Dr. Broer, everything is so confusing. You know, you're saying this about this, or this product, or this particular disease, but yet I'm not getting the same information from other folks that I see on TV or from other folks that are basically writing newsletters or other folks that are on the internet. Here's the reality. I've worked with thousands of patients on a one-on-one basis. I've helped people lower blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood sugar. As you know, Pastor Parsley came to me years ago after a TV shoot in Texas and said, can you help me, Ted? My cholesterol's over 600. And I said, yes, Pastor, I can help you. Can you do it without drugs? Yes, I can do it without drugs. I said, ask me something hard, Pastor. Cholesterol's easy. We took his cholesterol from over 600 down to under 200, took his triglycerides down, took his blood pressure down, took everything down. He lost 35 pounds, lost 9 inches in his waist because he did what I told him to do. I told him I'd send him a short paragraph email exactly outlining everything he needed to lower cholesterol. Lowering blood pressure, lowering cholesterol, it's absolutely simple. There are products on the market now that actually work, that are very, very effective, that are natural products, that are absolutely amazing when you use these types of products to lower to lower the blood pressure and cholesterol problems. Excess weight can lead to heart disease. It's not just vanity. Excess weight can contribute to premature death, heart disease, and high blood pressure and diabetes. Almost 1/3 of the population, over 40 million Americans, or 1 out of 4, carry up to 15% or more weight that they don't need. Now, one of the key things that people do, and let's talk about some of these top 10 foods to never eat, is they start losing weight on a fast basis. Not healthy. You never want to lose more than 1 to 2 pounds of weight per week, because when you do so, you lose a lot of muscle weight, you lose a lot of body fluids, you lose a lot of electrolytes. I had a very dear friend of mine a few years ago, 62 years old. The guy was in great shape, great condition. I saw him in the gym, and he was talking to me about how good a shape he was in and how he was basically had lost 20 pounds in like 2 weeks, which is very, very unhealthy to do because a lot of that's just water weight, electrolyte weight. And he was very strong. He was in the gym. He was doing curls, if any of you work out, with 150 pounds on an easy curl bar, doing sets of 8 to 10 reps. Very strong man, excellent condition. 3 days later, they buried him. They buried him. He died of a massive heart attack. You can't lose weight quickly. It's not healthy. Lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, and that way you'll decrease the amount of lean muscle mass that you're losing. Now, another thing that folks do on a regular basis, and this is so important, and friends, listen to me for a second. This is critical. Don't drink diet sodas. Don't use NutraSweet. Don't use aspartame. Don't use sucralose. Don't use any of those products. They're very, very, very unhealthy. Let me give you some of the side effects of sucralose. It's also sold under the brand name of Splenda. Shrunken thymus glands of up to 40%, enlarged liver, kidneys, atrophy of lymph follicles in the spleen and the thymus, increased cecal weight, reduced growth rate, decreased red blood cell count, extension of the pregnancy period, aborted pregnancy, decreased fetal body weights and placenta weights, diarrhea. I mean, Splenda, as far as I'm concerned, is not a healthy product, and it shouldn't be used. Aspartame NutraSweet is not a healthy product, and it should not be used. NutraSweet has received tens of thousands of complaints to the Food and Drug Administration. When you combine NutraSweet with nitrites, which are so prevalent in the food supply, which we talked about on an earlier show, you form a chemical called the diketopiperazine, which degrades to form nitrosourea. And nitrosoureas are the most effective agent known to man, listen to me friends, for producing malignant brain tumors in laboratory animals. So basically, if you go out and eat a pepperoni pizza and drink a diet soda with it, you've given your body the chemicals that it needs to produce brain cancer. You say, well, I don't buy that. I don't buy any of that chemical stuff. Well, let me tell you, it's like this. Have you ever mixed vinegar together with baking soda and it just explodes and foams all over the table? It doesn't matter whether you believe the vinegar and the baking soda are going to do that. It makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. That's what happens with chemical reactions. When you mix certain chemicals together in your body, through your digestive tract, they combine and form other chemicals which cause brain cancer. And aspartame is one of those products that do that. In fact, aspartame is number 3 on my top 10 list of foods never to eat because it is so bad for you, it should never be put into your system. So if you're going to go on a weight loss program, there are several key steps that you need to do. Number 1, you need to eat 6 small meals a day. Now, the key here is you have to ask yourself and you have to calculate how many calories you want to eat per meal. That's very simple. Take your ideal body weight. Usually it's when you graduate from high school. So let's say you weigh 180 pounds if you're a man and you graduate from high school, or 120 pounds if you're a woman and you graduate from high school. You multiply that by 10. So with a man, that would be 1,800 calories. With a woman, that would be 1,200 calories. Divide that by 6. So you'd have 6 200-calorie meals as a woman and 6 300-calorie meals as a man. You break your calories up like that, eat them throughout the day, never eat one big giant meal at night because your body can only metabolize anywhere from 300 to 600 calories a day depending on your metabolism. And if you try to eat more calories than that, that extra calorie count is stored as fat. Plus, in most cases, a lot of people have a problem with their thyroid because they're getting fluorine and chlorine in their diet, which interferes with the absorption of iodine in the thyroid. Plus, a lot of folks aren't getting enough iodine in their diet because they're not getting enough salt, because a lot of people have cut back on salt, and so their thyroid is suffering from a deficiency of iodine, which means it can't help to regulate the metabolism as well as it needs to, and so you constantly have a chronic increase in weight. And in later shows, we'll talk about different types of products that can be used to decrease body fat gain and to increase in speed metabolism, which will allow you to basically lose body fat, increase lean muscle weight, and feel absolutely wonderful. Remember, many nutritionists believe and feel that obesity is the #1 health hazard in the nation today. And I believe that also. I believe that if we as a nation do not start eating right and start losing weight and start increasing our lean muscle masses, that these statistics that we're seeing right now about how many people are dying in this country is going to be just multiplied by 10 from these diseases. And what's interesting, this is a very interesting article that I have from the Financial Times, and it talks about the problem with America as far as the elderly people and how sick they're getting and what's happening. In fact, it's called Facing Up to America's Time Bombs. And you can see the big eye here on the screen. It basically tells us this, is that these folks that are getting older are starting to have all kinds of health problems, including the baby boomers now, and this is a ticking time bomb for the people in the United States because of health care costs, which are already out of control. Remember, 50% of the population, according to current statistics, are now being said that by the time they reach 70, 50% are going to have some type of senile dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And a lot of that's because of all the additives and the chemicals in the diet, because of what we're doing to brain chemistry. And so you have to understand that your health is being affected by what you eat on a regular basis, and if you don't change what you're eating, it's going to cost you in the long run, and sooner or later, you're going to have all kinds of health problems from it. America's spending $16,000 a minute for slimming aids, dietary devices, and miracle methods, which basically don't work. Miracle methods are a joke as far as health is concerned in this country, as far as weight loss. It has nothing to do with this miracle or this fix. What it has to do with is you making healthy decisions on an ongoing basis, making the right choices for you and your family. We cut out foods basically that have high nutrients. We eat less nutrients in our food. We cut back on foods as nutrients as well as cutting back on calories. What happens is, let's say for instance, if you eat a perfectly balanced diet, you get just enough nutrients to sustain your health and to be healthy. If you cut back on the calories, there's no way possible without supplementation that you can get what you need as far as nutrient content in the food that you're eating. Remember, life expectancy is decreased when obesity rates go up. The only surefire way that I can tell you that's been proven in the scientific laboratories to increase your lifespan is simple. You have to cut down on the amount of calories that you're eating. In fact, there's actually a name for it. It's called systematic under-eating, in which you go into detail as far as how to lower the blood pressure, the cholesterol, the triglycerides, etc., by cutting back on the calories that you're taking in, which lowers basically the production of all the hormones and chemicals in the body, which expand the life expectancy. Now, I'm sorry that I haven't had a chance to cover the entire top 5 ways to burn body fat, but we haven't gone into detail as far as diet sodas. So when you stay tuned here in the next few minutes. We'll be coming back, so don't leave. And in additional segments later on, we'll be covering the additional ways to burn body fat. Thanks so much for being with us today. I hope you're enjoying the series as you're watching them at home. We didn't have time on the television to basically go through everything in detail as far as supplementation, which was necessary. That's why we're here today, because we want to go ahead and give you the information that you need to know as far as what you can do about obesity, weight loss, and heart disease. Now, you've heard me talk repeatedly about the importance of cod liver oil. This particular cod liver oil is our own brand product that we use that really is not available. It's old-fashioned cod liver oil that hasn't been processed. It is the finest, highest quality cod liver oil that I've ever seen. It's one of the best blood thinners that you can take. It also helps to slow up the absorption of food when you digest it, when you put it in your stomach, which lowers the glycemic index so your food's not stored as fat so it doesn't digest as quickly. Very, very important. For the first thing with weight loss, you've got to be taking cod liver oil. It's almost like you have to take fat in order to burn fat. We also have HGH Stimulate, which helps to burn body fat, increase lean muscle weight, which speeds up your metabolism, which lets you eat more calories. I know when I started using this product after we had developed it, it took several years to develop it, my strength went up dramatically in the gym. Plus it burns cellulite, it burns body fat, increases lean muscle weight, plus it's a natural male Viagra for most people. It's an incredible product, plus it really does a good job as far as lowering blood pressure. Cinnamon extract to help burn fat, CLA, a true fat burner, and the Ultimate Multiple, which is the only multiple on the market that uses the cellulose-based capsule with all natural ingredients to allow quick assimilation and digestion. Plus we have an excellent iodine product which helps to control the thyroid, which we also want to recommend for that. Also, steam distillation, best type of water filtration you can get. This particular unit is the best. It's used by the Peace Corps. You put the water into this holding chamber, it boils, it turns into steam, it goes through a condensing coil, it drips back into this container, releasing stuff like rocks and calcium carbonate. This is what actually builds up inside of your arteries. Have you ever heard the term hardening of the arteries? That's what this does. It builds up inside of the arteries. Doctors have actually cut their latex gloves while performing bypass surgery because the arteries become so brittle and so hard from the rock that builds up. This is the only type of system that can effectively and efficiently, without contamination, remove this. That's why the Peace Corps uses it in their third world countries, because it's such a good unit. Again, to order this information and order this material, I want you to give us a call at Health Masters at 1-800-592-HEAL. That's 1-800-592-4325. We also have additional resource for you. It's called the Dr. Ted Broer's Forever Fit program at 20, 30, 40, and beyond. It goes into detail how to lose fat, not weight, how to basically increase lean muscle mass, how trace minerals, why they're so important, why artificial sweeteners are bad, chronic fatigue syndrome, yeast infections, hypoglycemia, constipation, the colon, fasting, physical and spiritual benefits, and why you should always use a filter or you're going to be a filter. Again, it's called Forever Fit by Dr. Ted Broer. Give us a call, 1-800-592-HEAL, H-E-A-L, or 1-800-592-4325.